Hello, the mask is back with another prediction video. Let's go. Now we do have a canceled bout, so I'm glad I made this prediction video ahead of that. Cancellation, I think it was the Korean guy and the Mongolian guy. The Mongolian guy, I think Temberal Numandemberal, something like that. Sorry if I mispronounce your name and you happen to be watching this, but you know, he had some weight problems apparently, so couldn't make the fight. It is what it is. We move to the now first fight of the card. Angel Jubli, Quiland Sakhalid. Interesting names here. I'm gonna go with Salkid. I think that Jubilee shouldn't be this big of an underdog, but I am pretty confident in Salkid. I think that he's maybe more technical. I think that Jubilee keeps a good jab and he has okay kicks, but his defense isn't all there. And I think that he's going to get rocked a few times. Not as bad as in the Mike Breeden fight. I do think that he has improved, but ultimately I'm going to say it's going to be a decently competitive, however, bigger shots landed by Salkid 29-28. Yeah, simple as that. Kevin Jousset versus Jonathan Mikhailov. I hope I get that right. Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, I think that Kevin Jousset's or Jousset, his competition has just been way more impressive overall. I think his um, moments in the first round of the Brian Battle fight was kind of impressive, considering that Brian Battle was definitely one fight away from a ranking. And Kevin Jousset also outclassed Song Kanon, who I know isn't great, but Song Kanon, right? Yeah, Kanon Song. Some websites have it his name other way around. Um, but I think that he's the perfect decision fighter against Jonathan Malakif for guys like Jonathan Malakif um, who don't have the craziest finishing potential. Whom he does, but not the skills to um, land it with efficiency or get the submissions that he needs to. Because Kevin Jousset, I'm pretty sure has a judo background as well. So even if Jonathan goes into the grappling realm, I think that Kevin, or um, at least the clinch game, I think that Kevin has the skills enough to avoid it overall. So I think a decision is pretty fair bet, even though I'm not a betting man. But it would be a decent bet, I would say. Although he is actually, let me take a look at those odds once more. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great betting odds, actually. But anyway, we have Cody Steele and Rongju. I'm not sure why it's only the one name for Rongju, but that's just it is what it is, I guess. I'm not gonna I guess linger on that. I think they're both pretty well rounded, but I think Rongju is, although having a lot more experience at a younger age, I think that Cody Steele is. I don't really know too much about Cody Steele, to be honest. I know Rongju. He had a decent first fight in UFC. I forget the name, Chris Padilla. I know that it was a finish, but I think he was doing pretty good before then. And I think that was on a fight night. Was it 3 months ago? It might have been longer. Yeah, 4 months. And yeah, this is probably the fight I know least about. I think that Cody Steele is just more well-rounded. I think that he has more maybe devastating punches. I didn't see too much of his regional stuff, but from what I did see, even though he sometimes gets a little untechnical, maybe not as straight punches, but I think that Rongju isn't going to be able to capitalize on that, and Cody Steele is, I feel, even though he has less fights, I think that he is more close to his prime. So, from what I've seen, but I don't know. I mean, I think that I guess I'll go with a round two TKO. Oh, I haven't closed this one yet. I guess I'll go with round two TKO because I mean, even though I don't know too much on these guys, I do know that Rongju isn't the most strong-chinned, and he has been KO'd before. He has lost before as well. And even though this experience is good for him, you could say, I also think that it's also bad for his chin having taken so much shots. Yeah, round two TKO. Colby Thickness, Alexander Topuria. Now we're getting to some interesting stuff. Now, with Alexander Topuria and Colby Thickness, I do understand that Colby Thickness is a pretty good underdog, considering that Topuria should not be that huge of a favorite. He's not quite on his brother's level yet, or at least he's not proven as much. However, there are two things going into this one that particularly interest me. It's one, seeing that his brother Topuria, Ilya, is saying he thinks that he's better, that his brother is better than him. Now, obviously, I don't think that, and I don't think that yet, especially not now. Maybe he'll prove that down the line. But if his brother thinks that, I understand that it's his brother, and of course his brother should be giving him that encouragement. But I think that it's also the fact that Colby Thickness is coming in on 2 weeks' notice, and even if Topuria is anywhere near the level of Topuria, even if he's just 10% of what Topuria is in the boxing, okay, maybe not 10%, but like 50% of what Topuria is, even if he's that much, like, for sure I should see him winning. And even on top of this, we have to consider that um, Topuria, Alexandre Topuria, he's going into this with not just Ilya, but we saw in UFC Embedded, we saw before that he's trained with Marab and Guram Kutaladze. These are, especially Guram and Ilya Topuria, these are really good strikers. So at least in the striking, he's certainly prepared. And I could see him getting out grappled in the first round, but I could definitely see him getting big moments in the second, and then ultimately getting around 3 TKO. Not Thickness, no. Although it's a cool name, and I do think that either guy winning this would be hype and exciting for the bantamweight division. So yeah, moving on. Great fight though. And Kong Wang, although the rest of the card, as we know already, I don't need to fake like, oh my gosh, best card ever potentially. Like literally everyone's doing that trolling. I already know it's not great. But that was a good one. That's a good one, and I'm looking forward to it. We have Kong Wang and Bruno Brazil. I think that Bruno Brazil is actually going to keep things somewhat competitive on the feet at moments. However, I think Kong Wang is just way more technical. I think Bruno Brazil, though, so showing her well-roundedness against Molly McCann. I know it's Molly McCann, but I mean, it was a pretty clear victory. I think arguably a 30-27. I think I give it a 30-27, yeah. And she showed her well-roundedness. If she is able to get the opportunities that the other girl did, that the Brazilian lady that Kong Wang fought, what's the name? I'm trying to find out. Gabriela Fernandez. I think that if she gets those opportunities on the ground, it's going to be very hard for Kong Wang to win. However, I do think that even though Bruno Brazil will make things competitive on the feet at moments, I think that even though she'll find her shots a few times, maybe a right straight, maybe she'll hurt Kong Wang a couple of moments. I do think that Kong Wang's leg kicks and overall her kicking game is far superior. So I'm gonna say maybe a 30-27, but more likely a 29-28, I think, for Kong Wang. She should not be that big of a favorite. That's one thing I know, for sure. And yeah, I think the Tapology fans kind of got it a little bit more fair. I think that if it was like 90% of people were picking Wang, that would be a little crazy. But yeah, decision. Vyacheslav Borshev versus Tom Nolan. I could just so badly see Tom Nolan getting hurt to the body or to the head. I think that he's just Tom Nolan tries to be technical, and he also tries to be explosive at the same time, and he kind of doesn't know which one he wants to be at moments. I know that I'm not explaining this the best, but you kind of have to see his fights to know what I mean. Uh, I think it's Alex Reyes that he last fought. Yeah, I was picking him to KO Alex Reyes because he didn't fight in what was it 2, 3, 4 years, something around there, and he also was coming off of a loss, I think, or was it a knockout? Or he wasn't like Alex Reyes wasn't a guy that should have went to decision, and Tom Nolan ended up taking him to decision. There were moments where he wanted to go for the finish, you could see it, but then he resorted back to trying to be more technical and out kickbox him. I think that against Vyacheslav, it's not going to work well for him. I understand that Vyacheslav Borshev, the Slava clause, the goat. I understand. I understand. No, I like Vyacheslav, but I understand that he's taken damage, but it's just I don't really care. I think that Tom Nolan isn't as technical enough to land those shots to put him away. So I think Vyacheslav's body shots are nasty, and I think that even Tom Nolan's chinny. So even if Vyacheslav doesn't have the power, like what was it? Shoot, I'm forgetting the name. Nolan, Nicholas, what was it? Nicholas Moda? Yeah. Even if he doesn't have the punching power of a Nicholas Moda, he definitely does have the technique, and Tom Nolan doesn't have the chin. So I'm gonna say, mm, I think round two. I think he's gonna survive round one. I think it's gonna be competitive, but Vyacheslav has the better moments, and then Vyacheslav just catches him coming in. Vyacheslav catches Tom Nolan coming in with like a jab or something, maybe a body shot because he's already hurt Tom Nolan to the body enough earlier in the fight. And then yeah, I think round two. I think that makes sense. And Gabriel Santos versus Jack Jenkins. I am genuinely surprised how big of a favorite Gabriel Santos is with seeing all the predictions that the more well-known YouTubers were making. Leading into this, I thought, oh shoot, Jack Jenkins must be at least like a slight favorite, but no. I mean, now there are more people that are saying, like MMA Joey, I think, picked Gabriel Santos, and I'm agreeing with him in there, in that point. I think that he had a really good tit for tat fight against um, Laura Murphy, the prospect. I don't know. Um, I think it was Bedtime MMA. Since he started like saying that he's 33 and calling himself a prospect or something, and then he just kept calling him like 36, 38, and just kept making it older and older. Um, Whenever I think of Lauren Murphy, that just makes me laugh. I don't know why. Bedtime's funny. I should do like a tier list video on the funniest MMA YouTubers. I think that would be good. But Gabriel Santos and Jack Jenkins, yeah, I think Gabriel Santos is younger in his career, only a little bit, but he's closer to his prime, I think, or closer to his learning years, I would say. I would say that 28, you're closer to your learning years than 31. And even though Jack Jenkins showed great boxing against Herbert Burns, it is Herbert Burns, and I did see Herbert Burns get finished, I think it was, against Julio Arce or someone like that, who I don't rate that highly. I think that he's good, the other guy that he got finished by, but I don't think he's great. I'm talking about Julio Arce. Um, I think that's the guy's name. I could be messing it up entirely and thinking of someone else, but I just think that Herbert Burns hasn't really he's not really like a guy that if you beat, you're like, oh, he's that next level. Whereas Gabriel Santos, he's had good fights in the fights that he's losing. So I'm gonna say a decision for Gabriel Santos. Even against Onama, David Onama, he was winning, I think, until he didn't win. So yeah, it is what it is, and he has the height and reach advantage. I was surprised with just how much bigger he looked in the weigh-ins. I think that he's actually 5'10", maybe even short 5'11", compared to Jack Jenkins. It's a clear height differential. It looked like Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez a little bit in the weigh-ins, if I'm being honest. So I think a decision's making sense here. And then Jake Matthews already on the main card. Wow, this is yeah. I mean, this is not a good card. But do you really need me saying that? I think we all know that. Yeah, I think Francisco Prado is just too young in his career. He definitely, just looking at this picture, I mean, I've seen him fight against Daniel Zellhuber. I think that's the name, right? Yeah, just making sure the first name was Daniel. But I seen him fight there, so don't get me wrong, and more fights I've seen him as well against Ottoman Zaitar. So don't get me wrong, I've seen him fight, but just looking at the picture, you can see that he has a block for a chin, which is good going into this fight. But I don't think that he has the skills yet at this young age, at 22, to threaten Jake Matthews enough on the feet. I think that it's competitive on the feet, but in the ground game, I think it's a little bit better for Jake Matthews. And like I said, it's just the experience is there for Jake Matthews. He he was known for his hands, but then against Philip Rowe, he I think that's how you say that name. He definitely showed a class difference on the ground, and he could do that here as well. But I mean, I definitely don't see this going to a finish unless Francisco Prado lands the right shot. I don't see him getting knocked out. I could see him knocking out Jake Matthews, maybe if he finds the right shot, finds the right timing. But against Prado, I don't see Jake Matthews getting a finish, and I don't see Prado winning. So I don't see him finding the shot, and ultimately that means that I'm going to go with a decision for Jake Matthews. Probably 30-27 if I'm being honest, although Prado will have his moments. I think he'll rock Jake Matthews in moments, for sure. And Bellato versus Jimmy Crute. I was very close to picking Crute. I really was. I really, really was. But this is a really 50-50 one for me. But ultimately, I understand that, he has been losing a lot and he hasn't won in a while. And, momentum for Bellato, I get that. But ultimately, for me, what this goes down to is, the grit from Rodolfo Bellato. It's that he almost got finished against what was the name? Ihor Pateria, who actually is kind of okay at kickboxing, and he got dropped, and he got the comeback, and his ground and pound is devastating. So even if Jimmy Crute takes this to the ground, where he'll be more comfortable, Bellato I feel is stronger, and he'll be able to outmuscle his way to maybe a comfortable position on top and find the ground and pound shots, because those ground and pound shots against Ihor were nasty, very devastating. Devastating was the word I was looking for. It's just that's the only way I could describe it. I was like really like, oh my gosh, it's crazy if he gets this comeback, because he got dropped and then he was getting ground and pounded by Ihor Pateria, and then he just reversed it. And so I think it's that grit from Bellato, where it's like I feel like they're kind of close on the feet, but when it comes to the ground, he has not only the ground and pound, but he has the uh, strength and the grit. So I'm gonna say probably around late round one ground and pound TKO. Maybe after Jimmy Crute potentially shows his age and he doesn't have the right defense on the feet, and then he gets dropped, or Jimmy Crute takes it to the ground, or Bellato perhaps if he's just out muscling him, and he finds a dominant position and just ground and pounds. That's what I think. So yeah, I think he's like reminiscent of Khabib with his ground and pound. To be honest with you, not quite in the same technique, but in the devastation of it. Like you think back to the Conor McGregor fight, like Khabib was really showing his devastation in his ground and pound. So I see it like that. And Talison Teixeira versus Justin Tafa. Lots of the predictions on MMA YouTube is going to Justin Tafa. And then on the other hand, you see lots of the Tapology base or fans, whatever, they are going with Teixeira. And I actually think it's a lot more close than a 60-30, 66-34, or a like prominently most MMA YouTubers will pick Tafa. I think it's more 50-50 than what both Tapology and MMA YouTube is suggesting. So I think that it's really dependent, if I can speak right there, it's really dependent on if, Taliesin Teixeira is better than a Stefan Struve. Because we've seen something like this with a Stefan Struve versus Um, if I can remember the guy's name right. The other guy, he's similar build to Justin Tafa. I'm really forgetting here. The guy who fought Brock Lesnar and then he was trying to sue the UFC, I think it was. Maybe I'm completely off on that. But uh, is his nickname the Bad Man? Um, it's not a Tafa guy. He's not a Tafa brother. Man, what is it? Um, I don't know. It's basically like it's basically similar to a Derek Lewis versus Volkov. Frick, what's the guy's name? Um, man, I'm just I'm just gonna quit while I'm not ahead, I guess. I think that Talashin Teixeira is better than Stefan Struve though. So um, it's not Tafa. It's oh my gosh, I'm just gonna stop. I'm not gonna remember the name. I think that Talashin Teixeira is better than Stefan Struve against the guy that I'm really forgetting the name of that fought Brock Lesnar in his, I think, last fight in the UFC. Uh, I think that the guy that has a 50-50 record, I think that I just think he's more technical than Stefan Struve, okay? I'm gonna get off this fight because if I keep trying to remember the guy's name, I'm never gonna remember it. I'm gonna go with round one TKO. I just basically think that he has much better straight shots, and I think that Justin Tuff's timing is really good. However, I think that his range is going to be really off here, and I think that Taliesin Teixeira is probably going to have a little bit of a better chin than a Stefan Struve, especially since he's younger in his career with a 7-0 record than a Stefan Struve if he fought the guy that is like the old era Justin Tafa, Tafa Bros, Junior Tafa, a Tai Tuivasa type, the guy that's like the old era version. Round one KO. Okay, and we finally have some decent fights. Weili Zhang and Tatiana Suarez. Now, Suarez, I mean, look, I'm a little surprised that they're on the UFC website. They're saying that Tatiana's the slight favorite, and I'm surprised that on here it's actually saying Weili is the favorite. Now, I could totally see this being a Shevchenko Grasso, um, Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena type of situation, but I think that Weili Zhang is probably gonna. I think the safest thing is a decision, since that's what Weili Zhang has been getting lately. But I think Tatiana Suarez is going to get some really dominant positions early. I think this is going to be similar to a Shevchenko versus what is her name? The girl that got destroyed in PFL just recently. Um, Talia Santos, I think her name was. The girl that fought on the Teixeira and Prohaska card 275. She is going to have moments. I'm talking about Tatiana Suarez in the early going, similar to Shevchenko versus Santos. Uh, Santos, yeah. And I think that Weili is going to come on strong late. Is this either going to be a fourth, fifth, or decision? I'm not sure. Uh, let's go with something a little more interesting. I'm going to say that Suarez gasses a little bit. I'm going to say a round 4 KO. I think that, she can hold her own on the ground. We saw that she was able to pick up Shaquille O'Neal. I think his name is, I'm pretty sure his name is, 7'1" guy, big guy. And even if it was just for a moment, she did lift him off the ground for a second. And so that shows some really good strength. So I think that she has the strength at least, even if the technique isn't quite the same as Suarez. I think it's comparable enough to survive the early goings, and then round 3 and 4, Suarez is just going to be gassing. And I think that unless Weili Zhang goes for the grappling, which would be stupid here, she should win this. But I mean, seeing how she game planned in her last two fights, although they were strikers, I wouldn't be surprised if she potentially does end up getting submitted by a stupid takedown, a stupid lazy takedown, because we did see in moments in her last two fights, actually, both of them. People don't talk about the Amanda Lemos one. She was actually gassing a little bit in certain moments and getting caught a little bit. I think that it's the gassing part, right? She shaking her arms out in between rounds when she almost got the choke in the Yao Zhao Nian fight. There are moments in those fights where she is a little gassed, and I just hope that she doesn't use her energy stupidity. I'm talking stupidly. I, what am I even doing, man? I'm just like all over the place. Whaley's gonna win. Okay, just don't use your energy dumb and you'll win. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And we got DDP versus Sean Strickland. I have gone so back and forth with this one as well. I haven't been picking a lot of underdogs on this card, and it's probably going to stay that way because, unfortunately, I'm going to go with a more clear decision for DDP. I was picking Sean Strickland in the first fight. I thought he won, but honestly, I think that DDP, I think that he can wrestle more. I think that he can hit the body more. I think that Sean Strickland does not have good defense for the body at all. He wasn't doing anything for the body, and you can see that in other fights in his career. Sean Strickland can also target the body more with his teeps. I think that's definitely something that he could do, but I really think that DDP hits harder and his look more impactful. So even if he's maybe more gassed due to the teeps, of Strickland, I don't think it's going to be as good in the judges' eyes. I think Strickland doesn't do as good to impress the judges, and that's ultimately what's going to happen here. I think that Dricus is going to impress the judges more. He's gonna, Strickland also has staff, so even if he's looking to put on the pressure late in the fight, he even said, I think, uh, in one of his interviews that it would be around 4 or 5 TKO. I think it was a 4, he said. And that's what I was predicting in their first fight. And if he didn't have staff, I would say maybe. But I still don't think I would pick him. But the staph infection as well. That's I mean, it was a big like volcano. You could see it on his arm. I don't think that he's able to put on the pressure late in the fight either. I think that if Strickland wins, it's a decision. It's maybe he's Dricus hasn't found the improvements. He hasn't found the ways to keep Strickland down on the ground in grappling moments, and he hasn't found the adjustments on the feet. And then Strickland just outjabs him. That's the only way I see Strickland winning. But with Dricus, I think he'll just mix things out better, land the better shots when he needs to, and win probably a 48-47, maybe on one of the judges' scorecards as a 49-46. I really want Strickland to win, and this is one of those underdogs where it's like, if I don't pick Strickland, I would certainly regret it if he wins, but I just gotta go with Dricus. I think that he's also younger, the same reach, but I think that Dricus can maybe utilize it better with his certain awkward angles and being the more powerful guy. Strickland's not going to be as devastating with his reach. He's just going to poke at Dricus, and he already knows that he just has to blitz. So it's not going to have to. He's not going to worry about the jab too much. He's not going to worry about, oh no, what if he sets it up with something more devastating. I think that Strickland can certainly implement that, but we don't know that. He has been suggesting that in interviews, but we haven't seen anything previous in his fights that would suggest that. So I'm going to ultimately have to go with Dricus by a slightly clearer decision. Maybe winning rounds, I would say, one, one, I think, 3 and 4. I think round 1, 3, and 4. That's what I'm going with. Thank you for watching. Those are my UFC 312 predictions. Like, comment, subscribe. This is Masked MMA out.